All right, it's the KwinnPop Pop Tower. I am Peter W. Dawson,
I am James Bullock.
and we are here to talk about video games, television, and movies. How you doing today, James?
You would not know this because you cannot see me, but when you did that, I did like an animated pose with each one. Like I just felt like, man, I just want to throw my hands up, say video games, then point to another area, movies, and then another area, television, like I'm Billy Kidman.
Honestly, you could easily YMCA that because video games. You start with a V. You can get, it'll probably look more like a Y, but that's acceptable. And then you do the movies. You just kind of do a curl, with the M.
Yeah,
And then the T. You just make a human T.
Man, that would be awesome. We got to get people to do that now for our opener.
That might be expensive. I'm pretty sure if I hire homeless people to do it, that'll be illegal. Okay, it'll be morally questionable.
Yeah, I think that would be a better way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, look, we at least have some morals.
Mm-hmm.
So, today we're going to talk about a video game that's actually been out for a while, but we're gearing up for a couple of big releases later in March. And in the meantime, we want to talk about a couple of indie darlings, which is why last time we talked about Techno Babylon, which is a personal favorite of mine, and now we're talking about one that I think is a favorite for a lot of people, considering how many downloads it has.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about Stardew Valley. Now,
very much so.
Stardew Valley is a very fascinating game because it was developed by pretty much one guy on his own 100% of the time. Like Eric Barone, also known as Concerned Ape. Generally better known as Concerned Ape at this point. He's created Stardew Valley, which first came out in February of 2016. Right at the end of it. Yeah, February 26th. That was for Steam, and
we just passed the 2-year anniversary. It's crazy.
So it's actually not bad timing for this.
No.
It's now available not only on Windows through Steam and, of course, OS X and Linux, but it's available on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch, and even the PlayStation Vita.
Yeah, it's supposed to be coming out to the Vita this year.
Oh, I thought it was already up.
No, it's expected this year.
Yeah. My bad. Well, hopefully it'll come out soon, because I know Vita support's been a little mixed, and it would...
Yeah, unfortunately.
Still don't own that Switch, but I'm got that Vita, and I can't keep playing classic PlayStation games on that forever.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just beat Persona 4 the Golden again.
Just do it all over again, just to feel good about having a Vita. But you're one of the elite now.
Well, it did take me like 80 hours to beat that game the first time. But we're talking about Stardew Valley, so... and if you're worried that banter might have veer away from the cup. There's honestly not too much to say about Stardew Valley beyond how it works. So, Stardew Valley is heavily inspired by the Harvest Moon series of games, which, if you're not familiar, is kind of a combination of RPG and farm simulator.
Right.
Like, it's foremost, I would say, a farm simulator, but I mean, especially Stardew Valley, it uses a lot of RPG elements. I mean...
One of the biggest aspects of it is the interaction between the main character that you play with and the townspeople, which I didn't know about when I started playing. How much of your interaction with the townspeople in the area when you're farming actually affects the productivity of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, because, at the base of it, you're a character who is running your farm, and you plant crops, you get them, and then you can go in search of wood. You can go in search of new seeds, perhaps, and all kinds of wonders. Because there's a whole area, a town, Pelican Town, to explore, and which your farm is a part of. And I mean, well, farming is the main thing. You can also do mining. You can do fishing. There's there's just all kinds of stuff to do. I mean, even within the mine itself, you can encounter monsters, so you actually need to use a weapon to fight them off.
Yeah, which was actually very shocking to me. I did not expect that.
Yeah, because, I mean, Harvest Moon, like, some of the equipment you get at the beginning of Stardew is very much like what you get in Harvest Moon. You get yourself a scythe to cut wheat, as it were. You've got yourself an axe to chop down trees. You've got yourself, I can't remember what you used to smash it. I'm blanking on the tool you used to smash rocks. Hammer?
Yeah, it was pretty much a hammer. Yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately can't remember what specific tool that was. Yeah, but then, and of course, you got a hoe to dig up the ground, and as a result, you've got all this equipment, and you of course got a watering can, but then you also get a sword, and you're just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
As a result, yeah, it's like running your farm. You would hoe the ground, you can plant fertilizer, and then you can plant the seed, and then you have to water it every day, unless of course it's raining.
Right.
And just all kinds
and that's one thing like they tell you ahead of time. You're like, pay attention to the television because they'll give you a good idea of what to expect for the next day, which I always loved.
Who said TV can't come in handy?
Right. They actually have weather people that know what they're talking about.
Yeah, because there's a weather forecast, and then there's also a fortune teller, and then you can also learn recipes through the cooking show.
Yep.
Because one of the things you can do is make food, because your character does have a stamina bar as well as a health bar.
Mm-hmm.
The health bar only really matters if you're going through the mines and you end up fighting monsters along the way, whereas the stamina bar, it dictates everything. Sprinting, smashing trees, smashing rocks.
Anything you're chopping up, anything you're collecting throughout the day, like you have to really make sure you're paying attention to your stamina, because if you wear yourself out just cutting through grass way early in the morning, you can't do anything else. They'll force you to go to bed.
Mm-hmm. No, and as a result, your character essentially passes out, which is kind of funny.
Right.
And as you go through the game, you end up selling your produce to make more money, and you use the money to live. I mean, you can never get to a point where the game's unwinnable, because if nothing else, you can sell wood, you can sell grass, and you can just go around and gather it outside of town if you don't have anything on your farm at the moment you want to grab. Which is because later on you have to upgrade your equipment as well. And they do it differently than the upgrade system in Harvest Moon, at least the one I remember, which is where you would give it to a fairy and then she would enchant it for you.
Yeah.
In this case, you just go to the local guy. But what sucks is when you give it to the local guy, you can't get that item back for like 4 days.
Yeah, it's really a complicated matter with that. I don't know who thought that was a good timing, but
well, I think
it is what it is.
If you know that, it can help liberate you.
Right, that's true.
I mean, it makes the planning all the more intricate, because there's so much stuff to plan for. Because not only that, we talked about social interactions. Because there's like 20-something townspeople.
Yeah.
Because there's one guy who doesn't even show up until the second year of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if the game has a cap on how many years can pass, because I haven't seen one.
No, me either. I don't think there's really actually a cap at all.
No, I've gotten up to year 4, so I mean, that should tell you how much I've been playing.
Right.
To qualify that, as with Harvest Moon, each month is 30 days,
mm-hmm.
and each month is just a season. So as a result, you've only got about 160 days in a year, and each day probably only takes 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and it can easily take very few minutes to do, especially if you're constantly on the go.
Right.
At best, you'll sometimes get interrupted by cutscenes, which thankfully don't run out the clock on you.
No, not at all. They just really add a lot of exposition to the town itself.
Yeah, because that's the thing. All the townsfolk have their own little stories going on, and if you give them certain items they like, their friendship with you will grow, and then if you reach a certain point with them, you can see a cutscene that better informs their character. And as a result,
I was actually very surprised that they added that little bit in there just to make the town feel more alive.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like one of those things like, okay, they're just there initially to just make you better, to make your journey better, your story better. And then you come to find out, oh, well, these people have lives of their own. They're just not NPCs. Yeah. And I really enjoyed that aspect about Stardew Valley.
Yeah, because it's very much make your own story. And while there's certain festivals and stuff you can celebrate, and eventually certain events happen, they can unlock new areas and stuff like that. That's one of the core narrative things, is just the interaction with the townfolk. And you can learn secrets about them. Like one of the most notable ones is the mayor may or may not be in a relationship with someone.
Yeah.
Which you kind of just find out by accident, which is hilarious. And there's some characters who are just like, what is the value of this person in town?
Right.
And it's only by going through the storyline that you understand, oh, this is what this person does. It's I don't know. it's
good stuff. It really is.
It's a nice little touch. But yeah, the other main story thing I wanted to touch on, this isn't too much of a spoiler per se, because it opens up pretty quick. There's 2 main ways to drive the game narratively to unlock more regions, because there's 2 big kind of bonus areas there's two paths to unlock all the bonus areas.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is to go to the old town hall, which is essentially abandoned, if I'm remembering right. That's the old town hall, right?
Right. They introduced that pretty early in the story.
It's only like 5 episodes in, or 5 days in, I should say. You go there, and there's like woodland spirits of nature. Mm-hmm. And if you bring them certain gifts, they will eventually unlock certain things for you. And the rewards you get are pretty handy. Like, the most useless one is still pretty useful, because you get like a certain amount of relationship points with all the townsfolk.
Right.
And that's the most useless one. Like, there's one that unlocks the bus depot, which takes you to a new area entirely. There's one that gives you a bonus mining area where you can go to just get rare stuff so you don't actually have to go in the mine. There's one that unlocks the mine carts, so it's easier to fast travel. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, it really is. Like I said, the level of surprises in terms of what you can get from just interacting with people is really amazing to me. I did not expect it to be so grounded in relationships. Mm-hmm. I was just expecting the farm simulation aspect. I expected, at the most, the people would just be, there to either have a couple of blocks of dialogue or just sell you things. Like, that's all I expected of them. I did not expect them to be a relationship simulator to a certain extent as well.
No, they're fully fleshed out. And what's also great, this is the other thing I love, not only is there the nature thing, but there's an alternative you can do. So if you don't want to do very specific, because they ask for very specific items, the woodland spirits, mm-hmm. you can go to the JoJo Mart, which is obviously a parody of like Walmart and such.
Right.
And if you get a membership there, you can get assigned to do certain tasks by paying for a certain amount of money. So instead of just getting certain items to unlock the bonuses, you just get it all with money.
Right.
So it's essentially, do you want to be a pure capitalist, or do you want to engage more in the adventure aspect of the game?
Mm-hmm. That's options, man. I love it. I really do.
Yeah, it's kind of a metaphor, because, the JoJo people are kind of terrible.
And then if you tie it into the opening cutscene, which is really dark and depressing, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cynical.
Yeah. Oh, that opening cutscene caught me for a loop. I'm not even joking.
When your life is depressing, you will give up on it. Then you can go
I knew one day it would come to this, my grandson.
I'm old now. I must die. Yeah. But no, if you're looking for kind of a relaxing game, run a farm, adventure, fish, whatever, you build your own stuff. Like, there's an intricate crafting system. There's so much inventory. One of probably the most frustrating thing is trying to earn the backpack upgrades as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But of course, the fact that you can build chests and basically place them anywhere on your property. Don't place chests on other people's property; they might disappear.
Yeah, that's a very good tip.
Yeah, like, focus on building on your own property, but
yes,
all kinds of stuff can get unlocked.
Trespassing does not work well for you.
No. People judge you if you wander in their house at the wrong time, or or you're searching through a trash can, which is not always worth it, because half the time the stuff you find in trash can is terrible anyway.
It's just useless junk.
Let that be a lesson, kids. Don't search through trash cans.
Don't search through trash. There you go. That's your lesson for the day.
Yep. But, is there anything else you want to add to Stardew, really?
No. I think it's a great game. It's like I said, we just got past the 2-year anniversary.
Yep.
A great game. I think it's a very relaxing game. But the only thing I will say is that you might not get it in the first few hours. That's the thing. You have to kind of push through and understand the nuances of it before you really can appreciate just how good of a game it is.
Yeah. But it's... Oh, and we didn't really talk about this. We should quickly touch on this. It's got a classic Super Nintendo sprite style to it.
Yeah, like it's just like Harvest Moon.
Yep. So it's it's very retro looking, and it also is super affordable though. And the creator concerned Abe is constantly adding updates. One of the things he's working on right now is multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think we've still gotten yet, but I know he's working on.
No, we haven't. No.
He did a beta on that not too long ago though. And of course they added the ability to even choose a default type of farm, because he used to be stuck with the one farm, and now you can get different kinds of farms.
Mm-hmm.
So he's constantly adding new stuff, and even the stuff he adds gives you an excuse to start an entirely new farm, which is kind of neat. So I would say, yeah, it's a solid game if you're just looking for something relaxing to do. Because, I mean, the only way you can save is to go to bed and end the day.
Right.
Which leads to the classic, much like how in Civilization games, you would say one more turn. With Stardew Valley, it's one more day.
Yeah.
And this time it's not a depressing reference to a terrible Spider-Man comic books.
Right.
Just gonna cast a little shade on one of the most hated Spider-Man stories of all time. But on talking about One More Day, in which Spider-Man made a deal with the devil, why don't we move on to television, James?
Oh, boy.
How was that for a segue?
No, I'm just thinking about what we're about to talk about. Like, that's...
Yeah.
It's rough.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so... Once again, because we're kind of in the middle of television season, we haven't had too many shows wrap up yet. So we wanted to talk about a series you can just go watch in its entirety right now. And the series we went with is currently on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. I mean, it was produced by an independent studio, but it's 100% on Netflix. Like, I thought it was originally broadcast in Japan. So no. This is 100%
yeah,
Netflix.
Same here. Like, when I first saw it, I looked it up, and I was shocked that the release date was January, 2018. I was like, wait, what? This is actually made for specifically Netflix?
Yeah, I know. I was surprised, too. So what we're going to be talking about is Devilman Crybaby.
Yeah.
And this is one of the granddaddies of anime.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to define that term just so we're clear on that when I say granddaddy. Granddaddy for me basically goes back to the first ever anime, in which case I would say, like Astro Boy's, of course, the one everyone thinks of when they think of early anime.
Yeah, it was the first thing that popped in my mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I don't think it's the first, but I'm not...
No, it's just one of the ones that, like, had that crossover appeal. Like, that and Speed Racer, like, the two ones that had that crossover appeal for anime.
And then there's Cyborg 009, that's a classic one. Devilman, in this case, is 1972, and I consider the cutoff for Grandpa of anime to be around the time when Mobile Suit Gundam came out, which is, I believe, about 1979.
Okay,
so from 1979 onwards would be more daddy of anime.
Right.
And the cutoff probably being Evangelion, which I believe is 95, 96.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
that's where the cutoff for daddies would be. So I would consider Mobile Suit Gundam to be a daddy of anime, but Devilman is a 1972 series, so I would consider that a granddaddy. Which I think is fair, because at this point, anything born in after 1995, odds are they're probably not a dad, although of course he can be, if that's physically possible. I'm not saying it's not.
But,
whereas,
more than likely.
Whereas there's decent odds by now if you're born before 1978, you get decent odds of potentially being a grandfather by this point.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We're old, James.
Yeah, we are. We really are.
That's
why we can appreciate Crybaby so much.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So Devilman itself, I'll get into the history, I think, more after we talk about the premise itself. So, Devilman follows Akira Fudo, who he's kind of I guess you could say, kind of an average dude, maybe a bit of a weenie.
Yeah, he's definitely a weenie at the beginning.
That's true. Yeah, right. No, what am I saying? Yeah, he's an absolute weenie.
He's an absolute weenie. I mean, when he says that he's what was a river mermaid or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of a dork.
He really is.
Like, if you could think of a pathetic Peter Parker, I think that's probably about fair. Because in many ways, he embodies classic. Because, I mean, 1972...
But I mean, at least, like, Peter's a little bit knowledgeable of how much of a dork he is.
Yeah.
Like, to a certain extent, Akira is almost oblivious at certain aspects of how much of a dork he is at that beginning of the story.
Because he's such a nice, friendly guy.
Yeah.
Which is part of the premise, which we'll get to. And, yeah, his best friend is Rio, who is... is the same age as Akira, which gets hilarious when we talk about his backstory.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say his backstory so much as his profession. But, so what happens is, Akira is currently living in, I believe, Tokyo?
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, this is both true for all the Devilman stories, because all the other adaptations of Devilman tend to follow the main premise.
Yeah, they did not change a lot of what happened between the original and the latest adaptation.
No, at the bare bones, no. There's some elements that I can tell you specifically were added.
That are not the same, but
Yeah, I did some specific research.
The crux of the story is still there. It's still the same.
Yeah, because we can't get too much into the spoilers, but if I can talk about stuff that's different between the adaptations, that gives us some substance anyway.
Right.
So, as a result, yeah. So, Rio, who is a 18-year-old college professor, and apparently incredibly rich, like in this series alone, like when we talk about stuff in more specific detail, we'll be talking about Devilman Crybaby. In this series alone, when he first appears, he has a very fancy car and a submachine gun.
Machine gun that he whips out from a giant white coat that he's wearing.
Yeah,
he wears all the time.
Of course he does, because he's awesome. Yeah, and he just pulls out a submachine gun, which, by the way, it's pretty much illegal to own anything that's not a hunting weapon in Japan, so...
And a firearm in Japan, like, that was the craziest thing. And then the biggest aspect of Akira's, just trying to question, like, why Rio is in the position that he's in, what he's doing at the beginning. And he questions, like, in terms of illegal activity, not the gun, but him having a United States driver's license.
Yes, because he also went to school in America or something like that. So he's an 18-year-old college professor with an American driver's license, a machine gun, and an hilarious amount of wealth.
Yes, in Japan.
Yep. And then, so Rio meets up with Akira, and it's suggested they haven't seen each other in some time.
Mm-hmm.
And Rio is convinced that demons are invading the world, and the only way to defeat them is that he gets Akira to come with him to a satanic ritual.
Right.
And
as opposed to like a raver party that actually lures demons.
Oh yeah.
But of course it doesn't turn out that way at the beginning.
No.
It's just people getting high and just dancing and having sex.
Well, yeah, this is a tricky thing. I wasn't sure what it because this will tie into one of the things about. So, Devilman is very much a hard R series.
Yeah, it's definitely a mature series.
Like, I don't know how much the original 1972 anime, which adapted from the manga, I don't know how rough that is because I've only seen bits and pieces. But, yeah, Crybaby is very much a hard R.
Yeah.
And when you get to the rave, there is nudity aplenty, people talking about how great their boobs are, there's man-on-man naked kissing action, there's girl-on-girl naked kissing action. I think
people popping pills like crazy.
I think the only reason we see more female than male nudity is just because we don't see a lot of below the crotch stuff.
Yeah,
that's the
true.
only reason we probably don't see more down below. Yeah, so this is one heck of a satanic ritual / crazy rave / orgy. And my favorite part is Rio says, "No, this is never going to work. We need to spill blood."
Yeah.
So Rio smashes a bottle and starts stabbing people.
And it's not like he stabs people like, oh, I'm gonna stab you in the thigh, or I'm gonna just stab you in the back or something that's just gonna draw a little bit of blood. No, he's slitting throats. He's just running around killing people, essentially.
This is the weird thing, because like later on, Rio's actions get questioned, but his actions at the satanic ritual are never really called out. Which is which is arguably one of the kind of the like Crybaby. If it has any flaws off the top of my head, it's because it's only 10 episodes. It feels like a few things that should have had more time don't.
Right.
And this is more of a minor example compared to a couple of the others we're probably going to touch on, at least vaguely. But this is one of the bigger offenders for me. This is one of the things I think the series, because I really think it should have been probably 12 episodes instead of 10.
Yeah,
I don't think it needed that much more. Because, I mean, like, I've talked to people who've argued the length is perfect, and I'm like, I don't know if it's quite perfect. I think it needed just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But the long and short of it is, thanks to Rio's actions, Akira ends up getting possessed by a demon. Amon, I believe?
Amon, yeah.
Yep. I want to make sure I got the name right, because they do have a lot of classic satanic names. Thanatos comes up at one point. There's a lot of other classic ones. I don't want to list them all, because we'll be here all day.
Yeah.
But yeah, he comes up. In this case, Akira gets possessed by Amon, but because he's such a pure soul, Amon feels compassion for the first time through Akira, which leads to him becoming a Devilman.
Right.
Which is very distinct from a demon, because a human can be possessed by a demon and potentially become a devil, but they're not a devil man because they're essentially completely taken over. And demons can also just be, it's like they can be possessed or they can just be independent creatures.
Right.
It gets a little confusing with the nomenclature, but the big thing is, a devil man is distinctly a human who has managed to essentially harness and master the demon's powers that is within them.
Exactly.
So as a result, he is now he is now a Devilman and is dedicated to fighting demons with Rio.
He's a demon crusader.
Yes. And by becoming Devilman, Akira changes drastically.
Yeah, in the next episode.
Oh, but it's a Crybaby. God bless them. They made this just hilarious. Like, he's physically different. He looks like he's wearing guy liner. He's buffer. He's taller. He's faster. He's stronger. He gives not one damn about what anyone thinks about him. At one point, watching pornography in a classroom and studying the screen intensely.
My favorite part. They had to emphasize his package got bigger.
Oh yeah, that's right. That happened too. I actually forgot about that. I was thinking more of the porn scene where he's watching the porn and he's like leaning in, studying it curiously, like he's a professor, and everyone else is just horrified at what's going on. But this type of stuff emphasizes the humor the series has, where it's pure audacity.
Yeah,
insanity happens, and it's amazing. Because, like I said, the rave is crazy, and like we pretty much touched on the premise. Don't know how much more we can really get into beyond that. Basically, yeah, Rio and Akira team up to battle demons to try and stop them from whatever they're up to.
Yeah, we just have a couple of mini plots. Probably my biggest problem with the overall story is the fact that we kind of introduced a few characters that were supposed to be like the big bad demons, and then they get kind of wiped out really quickly. Well, I know because it's only a few short episodes, but it just feels like they were set up to be a lot more powerful than they were.
Oh yeah.
And then, like, by the end of their arc, it was over like way too soon.
Well, not even because it's only 10 episodes. They're essentially monsters of the week, which they already kind of were. But like in a manga, you could have a few chapters, and in like a 39 episode anime, you could easily have 2-3 episodes dedicated to the bigger ones.
Mm-hmm.
But because we're only dealing with 10 episodes, as a result, especially the first half of the season of the series is very episodic.
Yeah,
and it's not entirely for the better because there's a few big things that become thread of the week. And while there's still really good serialization with the subplots that move through it, including development of some pretty well done characters, including a few that are original to Crybaby.
Yeah.
As a result, some other, like, the 4th episode introduces one of the most iconic villains from Devilman. I don't want to give too much away, but James, the Death Mask guy.
Oh, yes.
That guy. Yeah, he's a much bigger deal in the 1990s original video animation version of Devilman, as well as the manga and the 1970s anime. So in this one, while he's still a big deal, he ends up being a bit more episodic.
Okay.
Like right, which is kind of so that guy kind of feels, especially the impact he leaves, because what he does is big deal. I don't want to get into spoilers. And likewise, the ones he fights in the episode after, which, by the way, warning, I'm going to say a word you probably didn't think I was ever going to say on this podcast. Episode 5, we see semen.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of semen.
Yeah, I was reading, funny that you say that, because I was reading a review, and I don't understand why people came up with this. Like, they, for some reason, appear to believe that Akira's a rapist when he's just having a wet dream.
Not in that scene. Later on, he's engaged in sex with a demon, and you can definitely make the argument,
but
I don't know if, like, you know, it's...
To me, there's a scene a little bit later feature another completely different character that was more disturbing in terms of sexual intercourse and rape than that.
Well, see, the biggest thing I found disturbing is a character at one point seems to masturbate, and while they do it, they sound like a donkey. And we never get an explanation for that. So what the heck was that?
Yeah.
That's more disturbing to me. I know that's terrible because, you know, sexual assault's a very serious thing, but I mean, yeah, because, like I said, this series is a hard R. Oh man, is it ever a hard R? Oh man, but it's kind of amazing some of the other stuff they do. Because, okay, before we go on, to explain why this is called Crybaby, and of course, people will probably get confused and call it Devil May Cry Baby.
Yeah,
because the names are so similar. Crybaby, in this case, one of the things they focused on with this adaptation is the idea that Akira is very much more of an empath. He can kind of sense when people are crying on the inside and tends to cry for them.
Especially when he finds out that there are more devil men like him.
Yeah. Like, so the idea is to emphasize his empathy more. Despite the fact that he just becomes this crazy, insane, awesome dude.
Yeah.
which is really fascinating. And so that's where that name comes from. And so as a result, you do see him cry more than once, and more than once a person will say, "Why are you crying?" It's like he'll turn to the person asking the question and be like, "You're crying too." So, and then they obviously won't be. It's like, "No, we're not." It's like, "But you are." And of course, he's talking about the feels, which is pretty well done. Yeah, and to quickly touch on some of the other characters, Akira's parents are off being researchers of some kind. I don't think we ever got... Like, they're like science researchers in Antarctica, I think is what's going on.
Right.
So he's living with the Makimura family.
Right. Makimura, yeah.
Yeah, which is... And so his sort of quasi-adoptive sister, because they've been living together a while.
Yeah, the way they emphasize, like, he was dropped off. Like, I don't know how this correlates with Rio going away, but the way he looked like he was dropped off, he was barely in elementary school.
I'm pretty sure it's been about 10 years. So he
right.
So he's essentially lived with this girl for 10 years, and he's blatantly had a crush on her, which is, of course, awkward. Mm-hmm. It's, I wouldn't say a full-on adoptive sibling, but I mean, lived together long enough. Yeah. Even if he's never been, like, part of the family, it's still a little weird, but I mean, that's fine. Yeah. That just makes the romance plot more awkward.
Especially when he gets, like, X-ray vision at night.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and, Miki, and, like, yeah, she's a big thing. She's, like, a track and field star to the point where she's featured in magazines and stuff.
Right.
I think she's called, like, the witch of the track or something like that.
Yeah, she's just this naive, good girl that everyone loves and does no wrong, and it really ties into the fact, like, they're supposed to be this big Christian household, too.
Yeah, because her father, I think, or one of her parents is not entirely Japanese. So
her father isn't.
Which always surprised me, because, the surname Makimura, you would think...
Right. It would make more sense that the mother wouldn't be.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever. You can't get too tied up in the details. The important thing is, because there's a lot of Christian symbolism in this, and it's actually pretty well done.
Yeah, it plays a big role in the end, and that's all I'm going to say. It just plays a big role in the end. And when it started, like, unraveling, I was really surprised and actually really enjoyed it.
Well, don't forget, like, Devilman as a granddaddy is a big influence, and Evangelion was undeniably influenced by Devilman. I mean, as were many other series. I mean, Berserk, the Persona series, off the top of my head, just to name two. I'm sure there's a bunch more I could name. Oh, the Guyver.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was thinking about that,
that's got to be a big one, because that's about turning into. Yeah, in this case, shoot, now I've lost my train of thought. Sorry, I was gonna say Evangelion. Yeah, because Evangelion, one of the criticisms of that series is they use religious symbolism, but they don't entirely know what they're doing.
Right.
In this case, they absolutely know what they're doing.
They absolutely know it. Like, they know where it's going. They know how to relate it to the Bible and everything. It's just a great execution.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of really intense moments. Oh my God. Oh, there's so many big feels moments.
Yeah. They might actually know Revelations better than most preachers right now. Who would have thought that anime actually might be able to tell the Bible better than actual preachers?
Well, I mean, if you're going against the grain, because I mean, Buddhism and Shintoism are the two, and I believe Buddhism is now more dominant than Shintoism by a landslide in Japan right now. I don't know the exact numbers. Right. If you're going against the grain and you're going to insert that into a story, ideally you want to do as much research as possible.
Right, that's true. Very true.
So because it's not a given, I would imagine somebody who hasn't grown up with that would be able to offer some interesting insights, which is, I'm sure, what happened with Devilman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just to touch on a couple more things, because we need to. They added two characters who have entirely unique subplots for Crybaby, and the one that's probably more easily identifiable is there's a character named Miko.
Right.
And one of my favorite twists is also actually named Miki.
Right.
So he can.
Who's
also
the
on the track
team.
team.
The adopted sister, like her. They're both Miki, but Miki, who is actually Miko now, everyone calls her Miko in the story, is jealous because Miki is just faster than her on the track.
Plus, she kind of took her name.
Right. So eventually everyone said, "Well, this is the inferior Miki, so we're going to call her Miko."
I know. It's such a. like, it's such a fascinating way to approach the fact that two characters share the same name, because, I mean, you know, you're going to encounter people who have the same name. I mean, you've probably encountered how many different Jameses in your life?
Exactly.
And I've encountered more than a few Peters.
Right.
We had a conversation last episode about Black Mirror about a guy named Peter Dawson.
Exactly.
So it's a whole thing that can happen. Oh yeah, there's a minor group of characters that I just want to praise real quick. The freestylers.
Yeah. I honestly thought we were going to have them freestyle every episode.
They really should have, because they were amazing.
I thought it was going to be like almost like Samurai Champloo,
Yeah.
where like every episode we had a rap.
It could have easily been. So there's a gang of freestylers who were in the original Devilman story were actually Yankees. There's what they're called, which are like Japanese gangs that tend to have like, you know, big pompadour hair, leather jackets. In this case, to modernize the gang, they made them freestyle rappers, and they're introduced aggressively freestyle rapping at Miki.
Yes. It's just a way to tell you, hey, we think you're really cool. That was really
But the problem is they're being aggressive, so it's like
they're so aggressive about it. It's like it looks like a threat.
Yeah, it's weird because like they're getting in her face and everything, but they're generally, you know, decent dudes.
Right. And I love the fact that one of the first interactions, this is where we go back to Rio when he shoots, he used the gun actually at them.
Yeah, to get him to back off because he doesn't. Yeah, it's like first we see Miki standing up here, then our freestyle rappers show up to aggressively freestyle rap at her, which is probably the biggest crime they do for a while.
Yeah.
And then Rio shows after Akira fails to get them to back off of whatever the heck they were doing. Rio shows up with a submachine gun and shoots at them.
And then I love the fact that after Rio leaves with Akira, they yell at him, "You have to do something about this board."
Yeah, because the house is ruined.
They shot up the board so fast. You have to do something about those boards, man.
This is the thing. Like, they have all this insane stuff happen, and they have at least some realism in it. So it's like, it's the right balance, though, where while you're questioning some things, they'll question it for you, so you kind of go with the flow. Like, one of the most bizarre things about the series is that in Devilman Crybaby, the Devilman 1972 anime is real.
Yeah, and that was a big deal with the little brother of Miki and essentially Akira, was just Taro, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
And there's various times throughout the show where he's actually watching the original.
Listening to the theme song, which they remixed.
Listening to the theme song, has the comic book. And it was so funny. Like, and one of the things I always loved about what he was doing, like every time you saw him, especially early in the series, is like he knew, like, Akira's password, so he could look at porn. And,
yep.
and it was like doing all these things. And nobody's really paying any attention to him.
There's so many side characters that end up being hilarious, but then also end up having, like, payoff eventually. Like, the little brother early on, he's mostly there for gags. Like, he'll constantly use Akira's password to look at porn, look up Devilman, like the original anime, and listen to the theme song, which, like I said, they remixed very well.
Very much so.
Oh, yeah, it's such... Like, the music in this series is so dang good. That's a soundtrack worth buying.
Especially coming to the end of the series, it's just emotional left and right. Like, they did a fantastic job with the soundtrack.
Yeah. One of the most popular things being covered on YouTube right now is the Devilman Crybaby theme.
Yeah.
And there's so many. Like, I think I showed you a couple, including one. I don't know if I should be plugging them too much, but yeah. There's some great covers out there if you know where to look.
You can easily find it. You just look it up. It's very easy to find.
Just look up Devilman theme cover, and I'm sure you'll find some good ones. Yeah, the one last thing I wanted to comment on, because like I said, we can't get in the plot too much, because it's very serialized, but it's also, like I said, the first half is more episodic, despite being serialized, which is why the first half can probably be rougher than the second half.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise, it's pretty good. The final episode can feel like a few things got rushed, too, which is probably where they could have used 2 episodes.
Yeah. It just felt like this big, epic final battle that wasn't that epic until... It's funny, like, the post-scene following the battle actually made the battle feel more epic than the battle itself.
I know, because, like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, they probably could have used 2 episodes to set up the big finale, and they probably could have used another one early on to address certain elements, like more of what happened with Rio. And,
yeah, true.
And what happened with the dude, especially the dude in episode 4. maybe give one of the villains, at least one of them that they built up pretty big to be pretty big threat to be more of a threat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, and maybe some of the hard R stuff didn't quite work, but a lot of it did.
Yeah, some of the stuff it wasn't necessary. It was like, hey, we could get away with it, so let's just do it. But I mean, then there were a lot of good comedy points from it too, so I can't be too mad.
No,
it was crazy, but it was almost like the absurdity of it is what made it so funny.
It's an audacity thing, and I mean, sometimes when the hero does morally questionable things, it can be to service the plot to make you think, is this guy as good as you think he is? Like, one movie that does that really well is The Crow, where the hero will basically deliver one-sided beatdowns to the villains, and of course, because they're evil scumbags who murder and do all kinds of horrible crimes, you want them to be beat up, but since the guy they're fighting is immortal,
right,
and then he horribly maims them, you're all of a sudden like, is this really what we wanted?
Yes. This is what we planned for? Yeah.
And the animation is very fascinating.
Very much so. Yeah, that was surprising too.
Like, even if you don't like the plot, it's historically important. It's got very good music. It's got very good animation. It's got some really good humor. Like, it's only 10 episodes. You can easily watch it all in about 3 hours.
Yeah, 25 minutes of episode.
Yeah, so
very easy watch.
Super easy.
Very easy watch.
Do recommend it. I mean, it's not going to be for everyone. And let me end it on this. If you don't like the first episode, you're probably not going to like anything else.
Honestly, it's on the opposite end for me. It's like, if you didn't like the first episode, you might like a little bit more, because this shift between the first episode and the second episode is so drastic that it kind of like turns the whole series upside down.
Like, if you think you still want to give it a chance, go to probably the third episode.
Yeah.
And if you're still not fully on board, then that's probably the definite point to jump
ship.
Yeah,
that's your jumping off point.
Yeah, because after that, things get really crazy. But I think that's pretty much all we want to cover.
Yeah, I've shed enough tears for one day.
Oh my god. There's so many emotional moments. Like, I'm still thinking about one of my favorite scenes, which I can't discuss because it's such a big spoiler.
If I think you're talking about the episode of the end of the 9th episode, is just what just rocked my core.
Not even that one. There's one earlier than that. I think episode 8 when it happens. You just get a character who goes through such an emotional crisis. It's so well done. I think you might know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea what you... Like, that's a genuinely solid existential crisis. What the hell do you do moment.
Yeah, that was just rough. That was rough. And it's considering, like, the belief system, too. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show this to our Christian faith families. Hey, you think you know religious suffering in the modern day? Watch this.
Yeah.
It'll still probably be an easier sit than watching Silence.
Yeah, like the last 3 episodes have such defining emotional moments that it put the show over the top for me.
Absolutely. No, it's like, I'm hesitant to say it'll probably be my number 1, at least anime of 2018, but
it's going to be hard to beat.
It really is. I mean, especially with what we've gotten so far.
Yeah.
We should probably move on, though. So we've been talking about a Netflix show, and we're gonna talk about something that kind of surprisingly ended up on Netflix, thanks to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, so I've been talking for a bit lately, but I mean, like, I championed Devilman Crybaby a lot, so of course I had a lot to say about it. But to quickly introduce the next segment, we have Cloverfield Paradox.
Yeah.
Which is the third film in the Cloverfield franchise. The first one being Cloverfield. What year did that come out? Was that 2007?
I believe so. Either it was 2007, 2008.
Yeah. It was like almost 10 years ago, if not 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then
good old shaky cam. The moment where everyone thought, hey, let's do a Cloverfield movie without doing a Cloverfield movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of shaky cam in that. And that one had a lot of young, fresh faces, like TJ Miller's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Odette Annabelle's in it. She's, of course, on Supergirl right now. She's in a solid enough career.
Yeah.
And then we got, 1010 Cloverfield Lane, also known as John Goodman is a Monster.
Yes, the worst man in the world.
Like, I didn't really like the original Cloverfield. I love 1010 Cloverfield Lane.
I thought the original Cloverfield was good. It was like one of those things like, hey, I'll see it the first time. Hey, that was fun. I don't need to see it ever again. 1010 Cloverfield, wow, I was just amazed.
Yeah. I usually consider something good as something worth rewatching.
Right.
And I don't think there's any point in rewatching Cloverfield as well. So I don't know if
I don't regret the experience of watching it once.
It was fine.
That's fine. That's good and fine for me. But if I'm like, okay, after I've seen it once, I'm good with it. That's all I need to see. I'm fine. But that's not a great movie. I don't think it was one of those things that made me say, hey, this is a franchise I want to follow up on.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1010 came out, and I'm like, okay, you changed my mind.
It happens. Yeah, so 10 was really good. And then we got, so the Cloverfield Paradox is a Netflix original. Funny enough, for a long time, wasn't going to be an Netflix original.
Yeah.
This was a script that had been going around for 6 years. Yeah. Since 2012. And
wow. You're right.
Which is kind of important because this depending on how you feel about this movie, you have an explanation for why you may not like it.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, it was originally called God Particle.
Yeah, the God Particle, yeah.
Which is understandable because the plot involves a space station where they have a particle accelerator, and they're trying to do good with this particle accelerator, but oh no, science gone wrong.
Because the Earth is suffering from a big energy crisis, and hey, let's get a particle accelerator to help us fix this thing.
Which I guess is the thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about if a particle accelerator would actually be able to solve an energy crisis.
Right.
I guess. Fine. Whatever. I've accepted dumber premises. I've accepted much dumber premises. I've accepted that Rio can be an 18-year-old professor. Even though that's kind of a plot point.
Yeah.
It's a weird plot point, though. But anyway, but we can't talk about that, even though I would love to talk all day about it.
Yeah.
So Cloverfield,
now I'm questioning even that was true. Now I'm even questioning that.
He could have been lying.
Yeah, especially when the big reveal of like, okay, then let's go on.
Yeah, we should go on. So yeah, Cloverfield Paradox. It was released February 4th of 2018.
Yeah, come and watch this right after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was released right after Super Bowl 52. That's what it was, right? 52?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I keep on blanking in what the L in LII stands for. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a 5. My room.
You're doing better than the Call of Duty guys.
Oh no, those guys, those poor guys.
Man.
So it was released on Netflix after years of production. Like, I think they originally announced this in 2016.
Yeah, it's supposed to come out a long time earlier than this.
Yep. Yeah, and they ultimately tied it into the Cloverfield universe. And it stars Daniel Bruhl, Elizabeth Debicki, Gugu. How do you pronounce her last name?
Oh man,
Gugu Mbatha-Raw.
Yeah, that's about as best we're gonna get.
That is the best I'm gonna do. I'm sorry.
That's about the best we're gonna get.
Chris O'Dowd, my man, and Zhang Ziyi. I think I'm forgetting a couple of people too. Those are the ones off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I think I'm forgetting another guy's name who I can't pronounce, so that's probably why. Because I am horribly, horribly Canadian. Bitch, I thought I was going to say something else.
And I'm an ignorant American.
Yep, and together we fight.
We are the super friends.
No, together we fight pop culture in the Pop Tower. Like we said, the basic premise is that they activate a particle accelerator, it goes crazy, and as a result, weird stuff happens. I mean,
yeah, but before you get to that, you have to note that the fear of actually using this particle accelerator would cause a Cloverfield paradox.
Yep. I know, it's like, what?
What is the scientific theory that came about that named it the Cloverfield paradox? Like, I don't not.
And it was very baffling.
Yeah.
It's like the problem is look. The performances are really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially because Gugu is essentially our lead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, Daniel Bruhl can at times feel more like the lead, but it really does revolve around her more than anything.
Exactly.
And she does super well with this. I mean, she's fantastic. Love her work. You know, can't say enough about the cast in here. Everyone does really well. But that said, look, the script in this is kind of a mess.
Yes, very much so.
Because, like we said, it was originally just pitched as kind of a standalone film. They crammed the Cloverfield explanation into there, which honestly kind of saves it. But
it saves it in the sense of that we know it's connected to it, but it's like you could have used that for anything.
I know, it's still not a very... It's too much of a vague connection, ultimately.
Right.
And, well, okay, let me go into some of the stuff that happens, though. So, weird stuff starts happening around the station after they use it. Basically, time and space get messed up.
Mm-hmm.
There's talk about parallel dimensions. That's a small spoiler, but, I mean, it's pretty minor, because, I mean, it's part of what the disaster is.
Yeah, you can't talk about the Cloverfield Paradox, the actual phenomenon, without explaining that they are parallel universes.
Right. They define the Cloverfield Paradox as, I believe they just say, horrors from another dimension.
Yeah, that could get
Or did they say parallel? Did they say parallel universe or another dimension? Because they said something like that, which is easily one of the silliest parts of the whole premise. It's like,
I really actually got a little upset with that, because it was like, this is really what you sat around and said, okay, this was a great idea to put into a script and try to be taken seriously.
Well, here's the problem. Because they say it in the beginning, and you know the film is called The Cloverfield Paradox, you know it's going to happen.
You know it's got to happen.
So it becomes quickly not what happened, because you know what happened. So it becomes a question of how interesting is what happens. And unfortunately, it's very inconsistent.
Very much so.
So it doesn't have much mystery going on except for what's going on, and even the mystery isn't that great. It's just more the perils involved, and the perils are actually decent. Like I said, I've been criticizing the narrative of this movie, and it's bad. There's a couple of cool things here and there that I really do like, though, especially when you first get when the parallel universe shifting, which causes all kinds of weird stuff to happen.
Right.
Like, that is really cool. The problem is...
there's one part where one of the characters kind of like becomes one of the bigger antagonists of the film, where he fears like something is crawling underneath his skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I really did enjoy something like that.
But then stuff happens that the explanation for what happened wouldn't properly address. And we get into just silly sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
Which isn't even really silly sci-fi horror. It's more just silly horror.
Yeah, it just becomes sci-fi channel level horror then.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to mention the movie it made me think of at one point, which it really should have made... Okay, it made me think of a movie that stars Seth Green. And really shouldn't have been taken too seriously, because it wasn't. And actually had some horrible stuff happen, but it was still a really goofy movie. And the fact that it made me think of a goofy Seth Green horror comedy, it's not a good thing.
That's the one with the hand?
See, yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You've now given it away. Yeah, it made me think of Idle Hands.
There you go.
A movie that has such a good... that's connected to the Cloverfield universe, that had a really cool monster in the first one, and had such a cool, psychological horror element in 1010 Cloverfield Lane, really shouldn't be making me think about Idle Hands. Especially with the other elements of the film that were actually interesting.
Exactly.
Like, we had good, hard sci-fi with crazy nonsense, and you're just like, whoa, oh man, this is crazy. What could happen next? And then we get Idle Hands.
Yeah.
I want to like this movie, I do.
I know, it's one of those things I think the biggest problem for me was they set such a good precedent with the last movie. I want to enjoy this, but it's just not working.
No, and they're setting it up as an anthology, and I'm just like,
And now we're all questioning how many parallel universes have we experienced now with the Cloverfield series, and to me, that's more of the most interesting aspect when it comes from this. Is the fact that now I'm questioning, because at first I'm thinking, okay, well, 1010 Cloverfield Lane is in the same universe as the original Cloverfield, and now I'm thinking that maybe it's not.
Yeah.
And that this isn't connected to the last two movies in terms of the universe, but maybe it is. So it's like the what ifs are more interesting than the actual movie.
Yeah, because, I mean, this one is set in the not-too-distant future.
Right.
But when going to parallel universes, it could have also gone back in time. It could have gotten ripples through space and time. Like, they do allow for that. It's both lazy and intriguing, which is why it's not, like... I don't know. I just can't even... Can you taste the disappointment?
Yeah. It was shockingly disappointing, honestly.
Well, especially with Daniel Bruhl, because he's generally been one of my favorite actors in the last, 5 years or so. Because I mean, like, especially loved his performance, of course, in Captain America: Civil War. And while I didn't really care for the movie Burnt that much, I thought he was pretty good in it. Yeah. And then once again, it's like I like his performance, but I don't really care for this movie you're in, sir. I would like that to change. Like, even
Have you seen the approval rating? Have you seen the approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes for it?
It's probably like 24%.
17.
Oh, wow, I was being generous. Ouch. That honestly seems a little low.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that, just like you're saying, the cast is great. Yep. It's just everything that came with this movie and what they had to work with is what messes it up.
Yeah, they took a script, they put it in a blender, and then they hired some really talented people to try to make this blended script worthwhile. The problem is, they didn't only blend it, they did a bunch of other unspeakable stuff to it first. I didn't tell the cast, and as a result, they're screwed. Like, it's... God bless them, but no. Like, why did you get your idle hands in my... I'm sorry, I keep going back to...
Cloverfield Paradox.
But, I mean, that was really the moment for me, when we got the frickin' moving hand. I'm like, no, I just went, nope. I just threw up my hands and went, nope.
Nope. This is where I draw the line.
Sorry, it wasn't a hand, it was a full arm, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It still made me think of idle hands.
Yeah, no, it's still there. That feeling is still there.
I'm saying something, because, I mean, I know a few people referenced the Addams Family.
Wow.
Which, again, is not something you should be thinking of when you're trying to...
For psychological horror...
Sci-fi horror movie, nope. You really don't want to go in the Addams Family. At least not for extended periods of time.
No, not at all.
Idle thoughts that can happen, especially if, like, one of the cast members says, hey, isn't that Christina Ricci from Addams Family in this sci-fi horror movie? Well, that's cool. You know, that's an acceptable break from reality. But, I don't even know. Man, it's... Do you have anything else you want to add to this?
No, I'm just saying right now we're 0 for 2 for Netflix movies.
Save me, James. I'm so depressed.
I mean, it's amazing that, okay, we have Devilman Crybaby, which is something I didn't expect to be really that good as an anime on a Netflix. I mean, even though Castlevania was strong, it still was only 4 episodes.
Yeah, and even then, it could have been better.
Right, but
it generally pretty decent.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah.
But now we come to, you have Bright and that Cloverfield Paradox.
Yeah, Netflix original movies have not been grabbing us.
No, it's not gone well at all.
Well, I mean, we also like Marvel's The Punisher.
Yeah, well, TV shows though.
I know. I'm saying, like, yeah.
It's funny. We appreciate the shows. We hate the movies.
That's essentially what's happening. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that's what's happening right now. We appreciate the shows and hate the movies.
And yeah, this is definitely a step up. I remember they did Knights of Sidonia, which I can't remember, which was not good.
No, it's not.
It made me appreciate Ruby, the Rooster Teeth original anime. That even then people kind of It made me appreciate that more, which is saying something because that one gets criticized for its animation. So yeah, but to go from Netflix, look, they're very much a shotgun approach. Not everything they shotgun is going to work.
No, especially when they're trying to shoot a whole bunch of things at once. Especially I think with March, they're trying to get like 50 new things out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done a lot of other good stuff, so it's just, unfortunately, this is a bit of a miss, and it's kind of disappointing that it's tied into...
Honestly, if they didn't bring so much attention to it with the Super Bowl ad, I don't think it would be as bad of a deal for them.
We probably wouldn't have even talked about it.
Right.
But, I mean, we're also in this lull where the only theatrical releases are either the Oscar winners, which we've already talked about.
Exactly.
By the way, shout out to Shape of Water. I did get the feeling it was going to be Shape of Water's year.
Yeah, you called it. You definitely called it.
This was a very predictable year for the Oscars.
It really was. Like, everything you said and I agreed with was true.
Look, I think the only thing I got wrong was Best Actress, because it ended up going to Frances McDormand. Yeah. We should just talk about the Oscars. Guillermo del Toro when he won Best Picture.
Okay, Peter, which ones did you get wrong? Well, just one.
That was probably the big one. I had a pretty good feeling that Allison Janney was going to win. You know, Allison Janney has won 7 Emmys. She's got 7 Emmys, 1 Oscar. She hasn't won a Tony yet, but she's been nominated twice. So she's not going to EGOT yet, because of course she doesn't have anything related to a Grammy.
Right.
But she's well in position. If she just decides to go to Broadway for like 5 years, she'll probably win a Tony eventually. She's just that talented, is what I'm saying. She's one of the second most Emmy-winning actresses of all time. Take a wild guess who she's behind. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who has like 8.
I was going to say that was like the only one I can think of.
Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, I was trying to end on a positive note, so I thought I'd talk about how awesome Allison Janney is. Because people get tired of how much freaking Julia Louis-Dreyfus wins, but I mean, Allison Janney absolutely deserves it.
Yeah.
She's very talented. Yeah. Good times. Well, I think that's going to do it for me. How about you, James? Anything you want to add to any of the things we've discussed?
No, I'm just looking for the giant monster to come roaring through the clouds any moment.
Well, don't worry. The Pop Tower is equipped with shields and giant harpoon guns.
And alligators that shoot gorillas?
Yes, absolutely.
Sounds good.
I also have what I call a man gun. It's a gun that fires men.
That actually have guns themselves, so when they're flying through the air, they're shooting at the same time.
Look, even if they just have a knife and a hand grenade, that's enough.
True. They're kamikaze anyway, so...
Yeah. Look, it's the first time under the Pop Tower name. We have to make some canon.
Exactly.
we have to establish a lore.
This thing, man.
We got to do some world building.
Yeah, we got to do some lore, man.
Just wait until book 4 of the Pop Tower saga. It's just a slog because of the amount of world building we're going to do.
Yeah, winter is still coming for us.
We have to go through the 70